Sure, anybody can talk about best case scenarios, sunshine, rainbows, national championships. That's easy stuff. Not this podcast. We're going to talk about some worst case scenarios for the Georgia Bulldogs in the 2025 season next on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How's it going, everybody? I also am going to do this part of the recording because Clint forgot how to record a podcast. Glad that you're here. Thanks for being an everydayer. Thanks for being a first listener. We're so honored that you are here. We are the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. He's Clint, and he will speak eventually. And I am Daniel. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. More on them at FanDuel.com, where you can make every moment more. And thanks for being here. As I said, thanks for being a part of the 199. Thanks for being a loyal third segment listener. Thanks for making us your everyday podcast. We get so many nice comments from you guys in the YouTube comment section, on the email, on the Twitter, talking about how you're a part of the 199. You're an everydayer. And we just couldn't be more appreciative. It's a long, dark off season every single year.
We need each other.
We need each other to get through this. It's even if you're a Georgia basketball fan, the six of you that are out there, okay, it's been a long time since that ended. And now we've had so it's been several months. We're getting closer and closer to Labor Day weekend, August 31st, when Georgia kicks it off between the hedges for the 2025 season. And we couldn't be more excited about it. We're on record. If this episode depresses you, at least the first segment of it, you can go back and listen to all of the takes where we talk about how this is the best group of linebackers that Georgia's ever had. We think the offense is going to be significantly improved. We think the defense is going to be top 3, maybe top 1 in the country, maybe one of the best defenses that Kirby Smart has ever coached at Georgia.
And we know about 21 and 22.
We have said some things this offseason, and we stand by them. But today, Clint, I want you to pull up the schedule for the 2025 season, and I want you to peruse it. I want you to take a nice stroll down it. And then I'm going to simply ask you, everyone is picking Georgia to be a college football playoff contender.
Yeah.
Some people are a little down on us this year. Some people are doubting, got us ranked a little bit lower than a traditional season. There's a lot of strong teams, according to general consensus. A lot of strong teams in the SEC. A lot of strong teams on this Georgia schedule. We got to go to the place that Josh Pate calls the toughest place to play in the country, Neyland Stadium. Right. So I want you to look at this schedule. You and I both on record are saying we see an 11-1 team here. That's sort of what it looks like to us on the schedule. But I want you to throw that away.
To beat our own chest. Last year we had 2 losses on the schedule.
We had 10-2.
We had 10-2.
And that was it. I didn't think that was necessarily going to be good enough for an SEC title, but we ended up getting the SEC title out of it anyway.
Correct.
We got 11-1 this year. I want you to throw all that away. I want you to look at this schedule, and I want you to take a long, hard look inside, and I want you to tell me the worst case scenario record-wise for this Georgia team. What's the overall record, and where do the losses come? Paint me the bleakest picture you could possibly imagine.
Now, I'm not going to go bleakest as in
realistic, but yes, but it could happen.
Like the thing that I'm going to give you, the scenario to which I describe next, is not outside of a purview in which I have thought through already to prepare myself emotionally for this season.
Down this road.
This is a
unawares, people. Go down. This is for you. We're trying to help you with this episode. You need to mentally get in this space so that you can be ready.
Okay. So let me just start off by saying, the worst case scenario for this Georgia team in 2025 begins week 3 at Neyland Stadium against Tennessee, because here's the case. It's on the road. It's the first SEC game. It's early on in the season. So the offense that has new faces everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Wide receivers, new. Offensive line, new. Gunnar Stockton, 1 start under his belt, new.
Yeah. And running 0 starts on the road.
0 starts on the road. Running back, Nate Frazier. Name someone else who has meaningful reps for Georgia besides him. You can't. So brand new offense, on the road, Gunnar Stockton's first road test. Daniel and I have a rule that when we're betting on things, when we look at lines and we make predictions for the year, if a quarterback's making his first road start anywhere, especially in the SEC, especially against Tennessee, especially against a team that still has good trench work on both sides of the ball, just really quick, if it wasn't UGA on it, we might think, oh, well, I'm going to fake that pick.
We'd take note of that, okay. Yeah.
So worst case scenario is we go on the road week 3 because our offense has not been up and running. The defense is still figuring things out, and it might be a 9-12 contest, something like that, but you take an L at Neyland week 3. Okay. Well, it doesn't get any better because as you're licking your wounds from that, you come back home and you say, let's get some home cooking against Alabama, get that monkey off our back. I'm sorry. It's still firmly there. Could you see a scenario in which back-to-back losses in weeks 3 and 4 actually make sense? Yes, people. Yes, that's within the scope. Alabama is a talented team, top 3 roster composition, 24/7. Straight up.
Yep. No excuses if you're an Alabama fan and listening to this podcast, and we know you are.
You know you are.
No excuses like last year where you didn't have any excuses, missed the playoff.
Oh, no. New offensive coordinator got his guy in there. New quarterback got his guy in there.
Yep.
Great returners, draft talent everywhere on the offensive line, defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Best defensive player in college football, according to most.
Okay. So. Great. All right. Now there is, I get it. There's a bye week in there. Okay. It doesn't matter. You're still taking your losses from that Kirby Smart at home after a bye. Mm-hmm. You can still take an L on that because the offense within the bye week, sure, it comes out. It's going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah.
It probably is a closely hotly contested. Okay, great. Kentucky, Auburn. I don't think in this scenario you take 2 losses in weeks 3 and 4 that you're going to take losses against Kentucky, Auburn, Ole Miss. I don't think happen. However, we get to the cocktail party, Daniel, and you and I are both on record saying that it would not shock us in the least bit if Florida makes the playoffs.
This is the one that is.
Guys, I'm telling you, even if in this best case scenario, we win on the road, Tennessee, we win against Alabama, we get the monkey off our back, we then take down Auburn, Ole Miss, Kentucky, and we are rolling. We are just, Gunnar Stockton has the entire offense under track. The defense is playing lights out. All of a sudden you get to the cocktail party and DJ Lagway is having an all-star type year. And it's a buzzsaw. I mean Auburn Jake Fromm loss type buzzsaw.
Oh no.
Even in win cocktail party. So worst case scenario, yeah, we take an L there. I think even in this worst case, L there, cocktail party, we get Mississippi State back on track. Even in this case, this is how down I am on Texas. Y'all, I can't see.
In the worst case scenario?
I'm telling you with
Texas.
3 losses, we beat Texas. Guys, I don't care who you watch and say Arch Manning's the next greatest thing. I don't care. It's at home with 3 losses on it, just coming off Mississippi State and then Charlotte and then Georgia Tech. I think worst case, now you can quibble with me and say, okay, Clint, come on, worst case scenario, we lose to Texas as well. Okay, they seem to me like Kentucky. Okay, I know that's not fair of them. That's not fair of Sark and Texas. Mm-hmm. But they feel like Kentucky to me right now. So even in this, 3-4 losses.
Yeah, you got 3 losses, 9 and 3.
And
that's your worst case scenario. 9 and 3. No playoff, no SEC title game. We're going to the Gator Bowl, or I don't know, Alabama. What bowl do you go to when you don't go to the playoff?
When you lose during
the day.
There's
a 12-team playoff, and all the bowls are playoff games. I don't know what bowl you go to. You just let me know in the comment section if you're an Alabama fan what bowl Georgia might make if they were 9 and 3 and a huge colossal disappointment this year. Worst case scenario. All right, Clint's got a question for me coming up in segment 2, but first these.
These are, in fact, FanDuel. FanDuel.com. Get over there right now. FanDuel is fantastic. Daniel, I love them. We use them quite often. Why? Because, again, road, first start, SEC quarterback. Go ahead and fade those points. Oh, no, just described Georgia and the real heavy favorite we are in every single game. So come back when locks happen to start the season, because that'll be interesting. FanDuel is a place that Daniel and I go to make these bets.
Yep. Wimbledon starts today, Clint.
Hey-oh, get on in it.
You don't want to get over on Wimbledon? Take a little Yannick Sinner. Like he's like plus 400.
Get some juice going
Mhm.
on that. Hey, 5 times you put $5 in, you get $150. $5, $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's new time users. FanDuel.com. FanDuel, get in the action right now. Official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs. All right, Daniel, you gave me worst case scenario. We've gone through best case scenario. We've gone through position groups. This is interesting because I think my question has to do with recruiting, shocking as that is, because right now Georgia is on a heater of heaters.
Oh, Lord in heaven.
I mean, Daniel.
You love to see it. I'll tell you that much.
Every single day there seems to be another recruit that is announcing to come to Georgia, except with a highly, and I mean highly touted linebacker. Xavier Griffin decides and announces on the time of this recording, Sunday afternoon, that he is going to Alabama. This is an all-world linebacker, 5-star kid, number 1 linebacker, number 8 overall, chooses to go to Alabama. Alabama has 3 5-stars committed in this 2026 cycle. People claiming DeBoer is lost, can't do it, can't cut it. The program's going to be in shambles going down. Well, all of a sudden, Alabama is pumping their chest saying, look at us. Look at us, Daniel. We have the best recruiter, the best program. We're not changing anything. Daniel, can you tell me, what do you make of Alabama having 3 5-star kids, one at the number 1 linebacker position? Xavier Griffin announces, does this change your opinion of Alabama recruiting under Kalen DeBoer?
No.
Okay.
No.
Tell the people why.
Because it's the only reason I hesitate there is because you didn't ask the question I thought you were going to ask. And so I had to make sure I was answering the correct question.
Okay. What question did you think I was going to ask?
Well, I'll get to it in a second. Let me answer the question you did ask first.
Please.
It's the least I could do. This doesn't necessarily change my opinion of recruiting at Alabama under Kalen DeBoer because Alabama is going to recruit itself. Let me spoil this for you, Georgia fans. Kirby Smart's going to leave one day, and it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. We've been on record on this podcast that we don't think that Kirby Smart is long for this job. We don't think he's long for college football. Nope. It is a grueling, insanely demanding position that I just don't see how. I don't see a scenario in which he coaches, 15 more years.
No.
When he leaves, Georgia will be just fine in the recruiting game. Georgia will be able to recruit himself. Now, will the next guy at Georgia be Kirby Smart? No. Will Kalen DeBoer ever be Nick Saban? No. Let's not let a recruiting cycle or two lull us to sleep and trick ourselves into believing that Kalen DeBoer is somehow sustaining what Nick Saban did at Alabama. Because in no way is that what's happening. Right now in the 2026 class, in which Georgia sits number 2 overall in the country, Alabama sits 8th. Nick Saban would never be in a position to fall outside of the top 5 in a recruiting class. Like, in no way, shape, or form. Now, Alabama finished 4th when all was said and done last year, so they were inside the top 5, barely. When you combine that with all the players that left, like Caleb Downs in the transfer portal, I would say the talent overall still was questionable for Alabama standards. In no way is Kalen DeBoer replicating what Nick Saban did, but he was always going to be a very good recruiter. The question was the level of expectation and success in Alabama is through the roof. You literally can't miss the playoffs ever at any time. You literally have to win a national championship once every 5 years, or you're going to get run out of town That's what you and I said we didn't think that Kalen DeBoer would be able to sustain. And my opinion on that front, like, hasn't changed at all. I think Kalen DeBoer will continue to struggle. And on the overall big picture side of things, but I don't necessarily, this doesn't necessarily surprise me in terms of an individual recruit or an individual player. I'm not necessarily surprised by what Kalen DeBoer's been able to do. Now, the question I thought you were going to ask.
Yeah.
The question I thought you were going to ask was, what do I make of this from a Georgia perspective? Right. So, like, number one linebacker.
I had a follow up. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were going,
it's okay.
well,
That's fine, Dave.
Xavier Griffin goes to Alabama. What do you make of this from a Georgia perspective?
Well, here's what the narrative is on the other side. Yeah, the narrative on the other side, Daniel, is Kirby gets just bodied by DeBoer in Alabama. They come in and they wreak havoc on the guy Kirby wanted. That's the narrative that Bama fans are telling themselves right now. Dave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to know the truth?
I think I do, and our listeners do, if I could be honest.
Well, some of our listeners do not, because Alabama fans here they do not want to hear the truth. Okay.
Correct.
The truth has one name, and his name is Tyler Atkinson.
Oh,
okay. That's the name that tells you what you need to know. Did Georgia want Xavier Griffin? Absolutely. Does Georgia always want as many extremely talented linebackers as they could possibly get? Absolutely, they did. Was Xavier Griffin Georgia's number one target at linebacker?
No.
Unequivocally, no. Look, I mean, just follow all the recruiting, like all the buzz, all the tea leaves, follow all of the people who follow this closely. Correct. And it will become painfully obvious to you that it's always been Tyler Atkinson, 1, Xavier Griffin, 2, in the mind of Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, and the Georgia staff. They don't go to 24/7 Sports. They don't have a login. They don't go to On3. They don't need the help evaluating the talent. They watch the tape and they make their decisions. Now, are they right sometimes? Are they wrong sometimes? Absolutely. But for better or for worse, it has been very obvious that Georgia's number one target at linebacker this year has been Tyler Atkinson. And all this decision today tells me is that Tyler Atkinson, Clint, is all dog. And it's very obvious to everyone around that he a dog, Clint.
And it's the name I have been looking for.
Yeah.
For some time.
Yeah.
Guys, we have just stacked for days inside linebackers. You're going to see a lot of them this year. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to see them next year and the year after and the year after that. It's going, as long as Kirby is here, you're going to see this plethora. And Tyler Atkins is a name that I desperately desire to see that. Hey, when we come back after, we answer the question, what's up with Georgia's injuries and can we stop it? But first, after these. And these are, in fact, back from this. Hey, I told you guys we're going to be talking about injuries. We're going to be talking about what it looks like for Georgia to have injuries and how we need to get better at it. And I brought a guest with me today. I'm going to introduce you to her right now. Everybody, this is Trista Park. We know her as Coach Trista. Coach Trista, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Great. This is Dog Nation. Dog Nation is excited to be with you. I brought Trista in. She is a trainer, a coach. She's worked with athletes for quite some time. Trista, tell the people who you are, where they can find you, and what brings credibility to this question of why Georgia has so many injuries. Who the heck are you? What do you do? where can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm a fitness professional. I've been in the business a few years now. And I would say one of my favorite things is working with athletes. I have started training them more recently, kind of getting into that. I started as a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, all the things. Come on, I do it all.
Good.
Come on. But then working with athletes, young athletes, has kind of been where I feel like that is really where you can set these kids up for success in their careers for later on in life.
All right, so Trista, one of the things that Dog Nation has been really, really ashamed of is Georgia has apparently found lots of injuries, guys being sidelined, hampering them. We have a guy, Jordan Hall, is a defensive lineman, lower leg injuries, ligaments. What could be the answer to why the injury bug hits somebody? Is injury bug a true thing? Is it a real thing? And why does it happen?
I mean, some of it is mental, right?
Okay, great. All right. So some of it is not actual, like, because people want to blame the strength and conditioning coach. Shame on you. You're not doing it.
Well, yeah, some of that could be the strength and conditioning coach
Okay.
too. I mean, in all honesty, but here's the thing. You have to have a good program. You have to have somebody that knows what they're doing, that knows a lot about injury prevention, because that's the thing. When I see my youth athletes come in and their squatting form is terrible, I'm not going to load their squats with 100 pounds right away. No, we're going to start at the basics, and it might look kind of funny, but we start squatting to a box so that they can feel what it's like to actually activate those glutes, sit back in those heels, and get that proper form. When I see these basketball kids out there and their knees are going in when they're shooting, we know that's not a great way for their knees for long-term longevity, right? We want to catch that early on. So part of it is getting to the basics, starting without that load, starting with that weightless squat and building from there. Also, rehab is a huge thing. Like if we're not rehabbing in the right way and we put those guys right back on the field, they're not going to do it. It's going to be terrible. And then it's more injury after injury after injury.
We had a couple of linebackers last year, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, guys that wound up getting drafted who were very good in short spurts. So a couple games, we put them on a pitch count essentially and said, you're going to play a lot against Texas, but we're going to hold you back otherwise. And that goes to the rehab. If these athletes who are performing at high levels aren't rehabbing well, aren't doing the load management well, they can't do it. They can't perform. And within football, you're never fully healthy. You're partially there. So talk about rehab in season. If you got an in-season athlete, what are they doing strength and conditioning wise to keep the rehab going as they continually break things down with each and every rep and game? What are they doing?
Well, it depends on the injury, first of all. But just because you're injured in one area doesn't mean you can't keep training another area. But it's actually taking that whatever programming that person has said, like, hey, the physical therapist has said, like, this is what you actually need to do to rehab this specific injury. Do it, get it done. Otherwise, it's a huge setback. And then that's right. You're getting on the field too soon. You're working it out too soon. There's also things such as overtraining. And sometimes like we get in the gym as a personal trainer, I see this all the time. We're like, oh, I want to do 1,000,000 squats. If we're only focusing on the squats and we're not focusing on the rest of the body, that's not going to help. And then we injure something, like we pull a hamstring or something else, and then we keep doing more squats. That's not going to help. So dialing it down, taking care of that injury, training other body parts to strengthen those areas that are injured is key.
So if a program, now we did some numbers, Georgia doesn't have an injury problem. Every program in America has injuries. Just so happens that for Georgia, playing the role that sometimes it's starters who get it more than not as they're out there. You said, hey, part of it's mental, part of it's the strength and conditioning, what they're doing. If you were to remedy that, what would be some of the main staples? Would you start with prevention, rehab, taking guys off the, like, what would your advice be, a top priority list to get those players back on the field and injuries mitigated within a program?
I mean, prevention is huge. It starts with that proper warm up, proper cool down, training different body parts. Like you can't just, like I said earlier, you can't just train the same thing over and over again till failure. That's not going to be helpful. Also knowing the sport, right? You know, in football, you've got a lot of change of directions. You've got a lot of lateral movement. So really training that off the field, like you're in season, yes, 100% you still need to train that. The load is going to look a little bit different when you're in season versus out of season, right? Because out of season, you can 100% go up on that load. But there is a lot of fine lines between like, okay, now that we're in season, we're actually playing, we're practicing more, like having to dial back that load just a bit to find that balance. And a good strength and conditioning coach can do that.
So here's what I'm hearing, and I'll apply this to Georgia last year. And Jordan Hall's the example that Daniel and I have given and will continue to give. Jordan Hall last year, lower leg injury. Georgia does not have to disclose what injuries they are or even when it happens, so we don't get a lot of information. So lower extremity, lower leg injury, sidelined him for all of last year and pretty much the year before. Getting that rest, getting back in it. What I hear you saying is, yeah, there is prevention that you can do, but with top tier athletes, better is the rehab, is the stretching, is the cross training to get them prepared to come back. And you just got to let it take its course. So if Jordan Hall needed to sit out all last year, guess what, fans? He needed to sit out all last year. There was nothing that strength and conditioning could have done to get him prepared and back in a certain amount of time, unless it's field wide, like Tommy John surgery in baseball. Fine. It used to be a year and a half. Now it's down to 11 months, 10 months, 9 months. What knows? So what I hear you saying is injury is going to come. It's what you deal with them and how you prepare to mitigate them at least as possible. Stretching, proper cross training, in season, different than load management of the off season. Georgia has something called Bloody Tuesdays. So Tuesday practices are notorious on Georgia campus as being the most brutal, being the most fundamentally exhaustive practices. Kirby Smart, the head coach, says that Tuesday practices are actually a lot worse than Saturday games. What are these players doing if Bloody Tuesday comes around? What are they doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to prepare their bodies besides rest and ice? What's this load management rehab? What would you do with athletes all the time to help them out?
I mean, we've got those workouts that we have to get done. It's just part of it, right? We've got to get in there. We've got to do the hard load. It's got to happen, And I think part of it is that mental aspect of it as well. It's like, that you're gearing up for that. You got to rest up. You got to get your sleep in. You got to get your hydration, which is super huge. You got to make sure you're fueling your body too with the proper nutrients. I'm sure they have, coaches that coach them on like, hey, this is the proper way to eat. Like we've got to hit those macros. We've got to get that protein, all the things, right? That's going to help in part. And then also kind of in those workouts that are kind of in between those ones that you're not quite to that Bloody Tuesday one, making sure that you're doing it with the proper form. Like if your coach is saying like, hey, this squat, we got to work on this. We got to work on this deadlift form. We got to work on how you're moving laterally across the field, then do it. That's how that injury prevention is going to happen, which is number one.
Much like we tell people all the time when everybody comes and says, hey, these students that are getting speeding tickets, it's all the coach's problem. No. There's a give and take. These young men are 18, 19, 20, 21. They have responsibility as well. Same thing with training, same thing with prevention, same thing with getting right so you can get back on the field. A lot of it's on you. And I know, we joke all the time. I was small fries. But when I needed to rehab, it was on me to maintain that schedule every hour, to do the little tiny things that I had to do in order to get that going. She is Trista. I am Clint. Trista, give the people your socials. Where can they find you and follow you?
Mostly on Instagram. I think I'm Trista the Coach on Instagram. That's my handle. Super simple.
Trista the Coach. It is simple. It is great. For Daniel, who's not here, this is Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We'll be back, and maybe we'll bring Trista along again for the rest of the summer. We'll see you guys later.